All right, so I want to say we are live, but let me check YouTube real quick to make sure. Yeah, and we are live. And that's okay. So welcome everybody to the first ever live stream I'm going to be doing. I am joined by my lovely co-host, Mr. Kevin. Would you love to introduce yourself? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, man. I'm humbled to be on here. What you do is awesome. You really set the bar, I feel like, in the Jets YouTube community with your professionalism, the thoroughness of your videos. So I'm happy to be on here. My name is Kevin. I live in Buffalo, New York. I know I said it, Bills country, but born and raised on Long Island, big time Jets fan. New to this YouTube thing. I'm at NYJ Flight Deck podcast. I just told Jude my technology skills are like at a 2, but my Jets passion and knowledge is like at a 9 or a 10. So I'm happy to talk some Jets tonight.
And so happy to have you all. So happy to have you on. I cannot speak today, but I want to say his channel is linked down below in the description. I was having some technology issues earlier, and I don't know if it's saving or not, and I apologize if it's not even saved. I don't even know if the thumbnail was saved on this video. Very unprofessional right now, and I apologize for that, guys. But if his thumbnail is not linked down, not his thumbnail, if his channel is not linked down below in the description, would you just say it? And I will add that to the banner. So NY Jets Fight Deck. And we're good. Do that. All right, and that's his YouTube channel right there. So, guys, make sure to check it out. All right, so we're going to start things off first and foremost by discussing our thoughts on the Russell Wilson trade. So, would you like to start first?
Yeah, my first thought was, man, the AFC West is stacked at quarterback. I mean, Mahomes, Wilson, Herbert, now Derek Carr. Derek Carr is your fourth best quarterback. I think that the top 3 quarterbacks in the AFC West are better than the top 3 quarterbacks in the entire NFC. Also don't even know if Pete Carroll is going to retire. Is Pete Carroll going to hang around and coach Drew Lock in his 70s? I don't know. And finally, I think maybe it opens the door back open for a DK Metcalf trade if the Seattle Seahawks are looking to completely rebuild. What was your take, Jude?
My take was just wow. There's been a ton of rumors going on about Russell Wilson getting traded for like ever. I always thought it was just smoke. Last offseason there was a lot of rumors about it, even rumors that the Jets might get him. But just to see that he got traded was just so shocking to me. But it's definitely a good move for the Broncos. I've been thinking Denver should add a quarterback for a very long time now. Really thought they were going to do it through the draft this year. But now they got Russell Wilson, and now they are legit contenders. Denver definitely is contending for a Super Bowl this year, especially if they bring back Von Miller. And I definitely think Von's coming back. He's been posting a lot of stuff about that on Instagram lately. Posted something on a story about what number should I wear, 58 in like blue and orange, but it also could have been signified as the Rams color, so it kind of did something cryptic like that. But I want to say that means he's returning to the Broncos because he's definitely open to that. He was just heartbroken whenever the Broncos traded him mid-season. But definitely think, Denver is a Super Bowl contender now, especially if they add on some pieces this offseason. And it looks like Seattle's doing a rebuild, and it looks like they might be getting rid of some of their assets, maybe even DK Metcalf, a player that I would just love it if the New York Jets got. DK Metcalf, he's fast and can make contested catches. The 2 things you want in a wide receiver. So, I don't know what it would take to land DK Metcalf, maybe a 10th round, maybe the 10th overall pick, maybe a 2nd round pick, but if we can get DK Metcalf, that would be awesome. But yeah, it definitely makes Denver a Super Bowl contender. And looks like Seattle is in a rebuild mode. So now that we're done talking about Russell Wilson, let's get into some Jets stuff. So the first thing we're going to be talking about today is how do we think we're going to be approaching the offseason? Are we going to prioritize the offense and support the young QB? Or are we going to upgrade the 32nd ranked defense? And Kevin, would you like to start?
Absolutely. And I have been pretty steadfast about this. I really want to lean offense heavy. I know we had the 32nd ranked defense. It was tough to watch. I know that Robert Saleh is a defensive minded head coach. And the Jets, in recent memory, even when our offense has struggled, we've usually had some pretty gritty defenses that have kept us competitive in games. So that was tough to watch. However, I think priority number one has to be putting an offense around Zach Wilson that will allow us to properly evaluate if he's our franchise quarterback moving forward. And I'm leaning towards spending most of our free agent dollars on offense and then drafting some defensive players and dealing with some growing pains as we coach up our young guys. So just hypothetically, and I'm not saying the Jets would do this or that I would do this, but we could theoretically spend almost every free agent dollar on offense and still significantly upgrade the defense. I'm not saying to do that. I'm not saying we will do that, but just to show how offense heavy we could be in free agency and still improve the defense, let's say we do this, right? Here's what I think it would take to get a legitimate offense around Zach Wilson. We need to go out and get a wide receiver one, Amari Cooper, Allen Robinson. We need to go get a starting tight end. We're going to need to draft a tight end too. I think tight end and safety are the two positions we have to draft a guy and sign a guy. 100%. Okay, so we got wide receiver, we got tight end. We need a right guard. I like Laken Tomlinson. We need a running back too to Michael Carter. I want to bring back Berrios for depth. Now, I made this list before the cap went up. So before that was going to take up most of our available money because we have to save $20 million to sign our draft picks. We have an expensive draft class. So even if we poured all that money into offense, right? Now let's look at defense. Okay, number 4 overall, maybe Sauce Gardner. 10, maybe Edge. Now I want some of these picks on offense too. Second round, I want a tight end and a safety. Third round, I want a linebacker. Both fourth-round picks I want for offensive line depth, and then maybe our fifth-round picks like a nose tackle and another linebacker. So if we did that, if we took those 6-7 draft picks, put them on defense, look what our defense could look like without adding a single free agent. We would have Carl Lawson plus the 10th overall pick at edge. John Franklin Myers slides back to the inside with Quinnen Williams. That's an improved front four. That's 4 guys who can consistently beat single teams. Then our linebacking core, we have CJ Mosley, and now that rookie, that's an upgrade. Sauce Gardner, that's an upgrade at corner. So we've upgraded, and we bring back Carl Lawson. So that's 5 positions we just upgraded on the defense without signing a single guy. Now, the guys who were here last year, they're going to be better too. Why? Because it was either their first or second year in the NFL and their first year in this defense. Bryce Hall will be better. Brandon Echols will be better. Michael Carter will be better. Jason Pinnock, don't sleep on Jason Pinnock, might be our starting safety. Ashton Davis, can he play much worse? I don't think so. He'll be better, right? So theoretically, you could go really offense heavy and still significantly improve the defense. I mean, Jude, think about just the impact of signing or drafting, rather, a top tier corner and then a top tier edge rusher. I mean, that alone is going to change your life defensively. What do you think?
I mean, 100% improves your defense. I mean, and also just y'all guys gotta check him out. YouTube channel right there. Look how professional it sounds. I don't know if your tech and everything is too, because you're sounding really legit right now and your camera looks awesome. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. It's just free agency leaning on the offense. I mean, hey, it's not a bad strategy to do, especially if you do the defense through the draft. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if look, we need to address both this offseason. We need to give Zach Wilson some help, and we also need to help the defense because it was 32nd ranked. And you did say we were going to prioritize the offense. Personally, I think we should prioritize the defense more than the offense. Now, I agree with everything you said right there. But honestly, with the defense, I just feel like it should be more of a bigger, feel like we should just address the defense more. I mean, Robert Saleh did say in his presser that defense is going to be at the front of their minds, and I did agree with what he said about how we shouldn't have an offense that scores 40 points a game and a defense that, allows 50 points a game. And then at the same time, we can kind of fix the issue with having, you draft Sauce at 4, you get an edge rusher at 10. That kind of helps that as well. And, I mean, through free agency in my mock off season that I made about 2 weeks ago, I had a signing David Njoku, tight end. Obviously, he's been franchise tagged now, so that's not an option anymore. Same with Dalton Schultz and Mike Gesicki. So all 3 of the top, tight end free options are no longer available to us anymore, which sucks to say the least. But there are a lot of names out there. I mean, the market is just not good for tight ends right now. Rob Gronkowski's the best option. He's not someone I wanted to sign in the first place at all. But I mean, it's just a rough market out there for tight ends. And I feel like with all the franchise tags that have been happening, because, tight end, I think, is going to be our number one need this offseason. Not saying it's going to be like what we drafted for because it's not going to happen. But I mean, definitely tight end is our biggest need. Was the worst position on the field last season. But honestly, I do think defense should be our number one need. Honestly, feel like, defense at 4 should be the pick. But then at the same time, I agree with everything you said because you did say, defense at 4 and 10 is honestly what you think we should do. But yeah, I agree with what you said. I just feel like defense should be more of a priority. So now you have anything to add to that as well?
I'm just wondering, is there a defensive player in free agency that you'd be willing to spend big money on?
So guy would really need to spend big money on. Definitely safeties. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus Williams, 2 players I would definitely spend big money on. And Hassan Reddick from the Panthers. He's put up really good sack numbers the past 2 seasons, and having him paired up with Carl Lawson is pretty good. I just feel like signing Hassan Reddick, just doesn't give you a lot of flexibility in the draft because what if Kayvon Thibodeaux is there at 4? Are you going to pass on Kayvon Thibodeaux because you decided to sign Hassan Reddick? It's just that's my only bad thing about Reddick because if Kayvon Thibodeau's there, what are we going to do with him? I mean, it's a good problem to have having Carl Lawson, Hassan Reddick, and Kayvon Thibodeaux as your top 3 edge players. But it just feels like Joe Douglas, I've been saying like if the TLC invited him to be on Cheapskate, he would join. I mean, Joe Douglas likes to save money like that. And I don't even know if that show's on TLC. But I mean, I know there's a show Cheapskates, and Joe Douglas should definitely be on it. And it just, having all that money invested in edge just doesn't seem like something Joe Douglas would do. So, I mean, I like Hassan Reddick, but only sign him if you're 100% sure Kayvon Thibodeaux is not going to be there at 4. And we have no way of knowing unless Joe Douglas has intel from the top 3 teams in the draft. But now let's move on to our next topic of discussion, which is if the top 2 edge rushers are gone at 4, which direction should the Jets go with the 4th overall pick? I'm going to start with you, Kevin.
Yeah, and I think I'm leaning towards actually what Eric just put in the chat. So Sauce Gardner, like a month ago, I was like, man, maybe if we trade back to 20. And then like a week ago, I was like, man, maybe I'd take him at 10. And then today, I'm like, he might be the pick at 4. He really might be. I love everything about this dude. I was just listening to an interview where first of all, Kayvon Thibodeaux left the combine early because he was bored and he wanted to take his ball and go home. But Sauce Gardner is staying late signing autographs with fans. He says he's never drank alcohol or smoked tobacco, even when his boys are celebrating after big wins. And he said, quote, the game and winning is enough for me to feel some type of way. I love that. Everything this young man says oozes authenticity, leadership, character. I really think we need to build a culture here. And Joe Douglas likes guys who are all ball, no BS. That's Sauce Gardner. 4, a little 100%. Higher than you want to take a corner, probably. But I don't think he's there at 10. I really don't, especially with this Seattle trade. Seattle needs secondary. Now they have the 9th pick, Denver's pick. So I feel like Atlanta or Seattle would take him at 8 or 9. And if edge rusher's not there, maybe I go Sauce at 4.
And I mean, Sauce Gardner, I mean, he's just a fantastic player. Never allowed a touchdown at all in his NFL career, which is not NFL career, college career, which is definitely a good stat line to see. It's insane. Not a single touchdown at all. And I really like Sauce Gardner too. I mean, the fact that he has never drank or smoked, done drugs or anything in his life. I mean, that is a really good thing you want to see. And I mean, the fact that he stayed late to sign autographs is really good. And it looks like the only bad decision he's made in his life is buying that chain. I mean, it's debatable, but I mean, it's all right. But Sauce Gardner at 4, I mean, personally, my take on the cornerback, and this might be definitely a hot take. I don't think anybody will agree with me on this, but I really do feel like we have something with Brandon Echols. I feel like Bryce Hall is a cornerback number 1. I really like Michael Carter II in the slot. I mean, Michael Carter II being our slot cornerback and drafting an edge rusher with 4, like the only 2 things that Jets fans can really agree on, I feel like. Because, I mean, it's just 2 things that are universally true. But anyway, I feel like those people right there as our starting cornerback trio for the future, I feel like that is a really solid trio. Now, we definitely need to sign a veteran to compete with Echols and Hall this offseason. Yep. I think we maybe should trade for James Bradbury. I know that would be a very expensive 1-year rental. But, I mean, for only a 3rd-round pick, He's like a top cornerback in the game. He can come in. I mean, he's first off doesn't have to move at all. He's probably already house to house in either New Jersey or New York, so wouldn't be a long move for him. And then, sorry, so like you would get a guy who is very good in the game for only a third-round pick, and he can come in and maybe even help the Jets make a playoff push. We know Joe Douglas wants to make the playoffs very badly. He said in his press conference at the end of the season, 6 wins in the last 2 years is not good for us. We need to push for the playoffs, and making a playoff push, trading for James Bradbury feels like a very Cincinnati Bengals type move to me. And having him coming for a year and mentor Brandon Echols and Bryce Hall is something that, would be pretty good for the Jets to do. So, honestly, I feel like getting a cornerback, making him a one-year rental is what we should do to address the cornerback position. But if we draft Sauce Gardner, I'm not mad at that decision at all. I mean, Sauce Gardner is a beast. Even if we draft Derek Stingley, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. I mean, getting either Sauce or Stingley, that's awesome. I mean, hey, you don't like Derek Stingley?
I think Derek Stingley is a very good player. Any injury juju, oh man, I can't do it this year. We've been cursed. I've been hurt too many times. He's a good player though.
I mean, and I might be a little biased because I am from Louisiana. I am an LSU fan, so I might have a little bias with Derek Stingley right there. But I mean, honestly, I just feel like we shouldn't draft a cornerback high, and we should just roll with Echols, Hall, and Carter. So if we don't, if Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson aren't there at 4, I feel like we should maybe lean and draft Kyle Hamilton. Now, of course, it depends on free agency. If we sign Tyrann Mathieu or if we sign Marcus Williams, I don't want us spending the 4th overall pick on a guy like Kyle Hamilton because you can address a whole lot more. And, you can get a guy late in the draft like Jalen Petrie or someone to, fill in that other safety role. And then you don't need 2 full safeties either because you're going to need someone in the, you're going to need a strong safety. So if we don't sign a safety, if we don't sign a big money safety in free agency, draft Kyle Hamilton with the 4th overall pick. But if you sign one, I honestly would be cool with us drafting Carl Loftus, Jermaine Johnson with the 4th overall pick, even Trayvon Walker. His stock has definitely increased since the combine. Daniel Jeremiah has been hyping this guy up a lot. So if, the top 4 edge rushers aren't there, I honestly think we should just go with another edge rusher. I mean, I really like George Karlaftis. I know that might be another debatable take, but I feel like Karlaftis is just a good player.
I like him a lot. He's in play at 10 for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Karlaftis at 10 would be a dream for me. I've been preaching about Karlaftis for a very long time. So I would be cool with us taking him with the 4th overall pick or even a guy like Jermaine Johnson or Trayvon Walker. So do you have anything more to add about this subject?
Well, I love Karlaftis. There was a while where he was being mocked to us at 4. Then for no reason, he seemed to start sliding. I'm disappointed he didn't go to the combine. I think he would have tested really well. But I love the James Bradbury trade because and his contract is written so that the Jets would only be, or any team that traded for him would only be on the hook for $13 million, which I think is a fair cap hit for a player of his caliber. And I think if you look at the cornerback market, can you get a better corner for $13 million? I don't think so. I like him better than Carlton Davis. Do you want to sign up for multiple years of Stephon Gilmore over the age of 30? So I think it's a good move.
So now let's move on to our next topic, which is trade scenarios at 10. Who could be trade partners with the New York Jets if they want to move back? And you want to start this one or?
You can start this one.
I'm going to start this one. Alrighty. So 10th overall pick. I don't see any player trading up unless it's for a quarterback.
Right.
And who are some teams that could be in need for a quarterback now? And especially with the Seattle, I mean, I know Seattle picks before us, but maybe that just makes the quarterback market a bit bigger. I don't know, something I thought of, but teams that I could see trading up for a quarterback. Maybe, no, not the Denver Broncos. I don't know why that thought just pulled in my head for a second. I was still kind of thinking about offseason. All right, so teams that I could see trading up for a QB are the New Orleans Saints, Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Detroit Lions. Saints and Steelers, there's no doubt at all that they are teams that need quarterbacks. Pittsburgh, Big Ben just retired. Do you really want Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins to be your starter in 2022? Have they shown enough in their NFL careers, or have they shown enough behind the scenes in Pittsburgh that prove they are that guy? I mean, I'm not in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, so I don't know the answer to that question. But I'm going to just guess that they aren't that player, and they're most likely going to be needing a quarterback this year. And with Malik Willis having a very good combine, and it feels like Malik Willis is their guy. They're going to be wanting to trade up for him. I mean, there are a lot of teams. I mean, Washington. I mean, if they don't trade for a quarterback this offseason, they're definitely going to be taking one.
They've been trying.
Yeah, they've been trying. They even offered. I mean, they wanted Patrick Mahomes. They thought Kansas City was going to trade Patrick Mahomes. Like,
I want
that's
to see
insane.
that offer. Like, I want to see what they probably offered. Like, what, 10 first-round picks?
Something like that. I mean, to think Kansas City would trade Patrick Mahomes, that trade price is going to be like definitely off the hooks. I mean, they even try to get Russell Wilson. They even offered a better, trade package for Wilson than Denver did. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting too. So we know Washington is desperately in need of a quarterback, and they're going to take one at 11. Maybe it's the guy Pittsburgh wants, and I could see them jumping ahead. Same thing with New Orleans. Now, maybe they want to bring back Jameis Winston because I am from Louisiana. I kind of know a little bit about the Saints, and he was a pretty solid quarterback for the Saints this past season. He wasn't really bad. He didn't have that crazy turnover problem that he had. Wasn't throwing 30 interceptions. So, I mean, he was pretty solid in New Orleans. Maybe they want to bring him back for a 1-year rental. Maybe see if he's a guy once again. Because I feel like if he would have had more time to play in 2021, I mean, if he didn't have that ACL injury, maybe the Saints could have made it to the playoffs. And then I say Detroit because they pick at 32. Are they going to take one with a second overall pick? I hope and pray they do. But I highly doubt they take one at 2. And with the combine, having all these quarterbacks play good, it looks like, they're not going to be in the market for one of the best quarterbacks in the draft with the 32nd overall pick. Maybe they think Jared Goff's the guy, which I don't think he is. So they're most likely going to be, drafting a quarterback, or maybe they make a crazy trade like the, Broncos did, but I don't think that happens either. So I definitely could see Detroit trading up for a quarterback, and maybe they want to overstep teams like Washington, Pittsburgh, Saints, and land one with the 10th overall pick. But those are, teams I could see trading up for 10.
Absolutely. And Pittsburgh, now that Aaron Rodgers re-signed, because that broke 2, he got $200 million for a 4-year extension.
Oh, true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so he's got $50 million a year. So they were rumored for him. So now that Russ and Rodgers are set, now it's like, are they going to try and trade for Deshaun Watson? Like, they have to draft somebody. I think Pittsburgh definitely. Now, also, they have that like draft chart that shows like what you have to pay when you trade. But when you're coming up for a quarterback, you can throw that out the window because there's a tax you got to pay to come up to get a quarterback. And the Jets saw that with Sam Darnold. They paid 3 first-round picks to go from 6 to 3. Could have stayed there in 6 and had Josh Allen and 3 second-round picks, but I digress. And I'm really excited about the possible move with Pittsburgh. There's a trade package I really, really like. I think if Pittsburgh wants to come up from 20 to 10, I would ask Pittsburgh, one, I want their second round pick 2023, because we got a lot of picks this year. So I'm okay with kicking another pick a year down the road. And then I also want wide receiver Chase Claypool, because now, is he a number 1? No, but he's a really good number 2. He could play on the outside, and he's younger than Denzel Mims, and he's on his rookie second round contract. So he barely affects your cap. So what that would allow you to do is you fill the wide receiver need. Now you have Corey Davis, Claypool, Elijah Moore, maybe Berrios for depth. Is any one of them a true number 1? Maybe not, but those are 4 really good football players. I'm okay with that going into next year. Then you still have the 20th pick. So maybe then you're looking Devin Lloyd, Nakobe Dean, maybe the Linderbaum hype train people get their wish, maybe a second tier corner like McDuffie. So you're still keeping your 2 premium assets of 2 first-round picks. You plug the wide receiver hole. You don't affect your cap. And now you have another second-round pick for next year. That feels like a really good move to me.
And it definitely is a good move. And I really like Chase Claypool, too. I mean, he's a big body receiver. We need guys who can make contested catches. And I've said before that having 2 really good wide receiver 2s honestly makes up for not having a true wide receiver number 1. I was kind of talking about getting Tim Patrick before he signed that extension with the Broncos. I mean, I was really into Tim Patrick, but I mean, having 2 really, and we have some spam in the chat. Spam. I'm gonna delete that delete those real quick. But I mean, having 2 first round picks too. I mean, still having. I just kind of lost my train of thought right there.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. You had another second round pick, and then like you said, 2 two really good number 2 receivers is kind of as valuable as a number 1 because it's okay if you don't have an elite receiver. What you don't want is to have injuries and then have Zach Wilson throwing to like DK Montgomery or, borderline NFL players. So we just want to
Tariq
make sure
Black.
that we want to get Tariq Black. Hey, nice catch against the Bills.
Very nice.
But then they're like running the wrong routes, and it's just we can't have that. So you need to have 4 legitimate professional receivers, and then you have Denzel Mims as a wild card.
All right. So we're good on trade to 10. I really like what we said about that, and I really like that trade package with the Pittsburgh Steelers. If we could get Chase Claypool and also have a first-round pick, that's awesome. So now we're going to talk about our final discussion, and we probably might be talking about some more stuff after if we have anything else that comes to mind. But the final thing we're going to be talking about is which players should we be more hyped on? There's been a lot of hype about the offseason this year, but which is a player in the building that we should be more hyped about? And you want to start this one?
Sure. I think we should be stoked. We should be uber pumped and excited that Mekhi Becton is in green and white, is a New York Jet. Listen, he got rolled up on Greg Van Roten, and Jude's repping the jersey right there. So let's ask yourself this, Jude. I want you to answer me this. If Mekhi Becton, the prospect, is coming out this year, would he even be on the board when the Jets are drafting at 4?
I don't know.
Maybe not.
He would be tackle number 1. He's better than Ike Meliwanu, better than Evan Neal. We wouldn't even be in position to draft him this year.
Right.
He would be tackle 1 in this class.
Yeah, he'd be in play for the number 1 overall pick. So, and the injury, it was kind of a freak thing, and I know it didn't heal the way we wanted, but a 6'7", 350-pound dude, it's just not going to heal the same as a 190-pound defensive back. So I really feel like he'll be at left tackle and Fant will be at right tackle. And then maybe if we want to draft, like say we draft a tackle at 4 that plays guard the first year, then they can slide over to right tackle and Fant can go get paid somewhere else. And then we have like maybe an Ekwonu or a Becton as our bookend tackles. I'm super pumped for Mekhi Becton. I mean, as a rookie, like a 73 Pro Football Focus score, anything in the 70s as a rookie is really solid. Had some penalty issues, but was a mauler in the run game and the screen game. And I think he's just an attitude changer. Like, we had DeBrickasoff Ferguson, who was like a smooth athlete and a solid pro, but he didn't bring the nasty that Mekhi Becton's going to bring. And I'm pumped about Mekhi. I think it's going to be a big year for him.
I really love Mekhi Becton too. I'm rocking this jersey right here. I'm a huge Mekhi Becton fan, favorite player on the team. But I think another player we should be talking more about is Bryce Hall. I said early on the stream that I believe he can be CB number 1, but one of the bigger drawbacks about Bryce Hall is that he's not a ball hawk cornerback. He's had 1 interception, and the 1 interception he had wasn't really in coverage. It was like a crazy acrobatic catch. So he needs to have ball hawking skills. But this past season, he was a stud. We know Bryce Hall holds, I believe, the single season pass deflection record in the entire NCAA with like 20-something. So, Bryce Hall, he can deflect passes. We know he's around the ball a lot. And I believe he had tied for the 5th most pass deflections this past season in the NFL. And he's a really good zone cover as well, or zoner. Man, I saw a tweet the other day that said he didn't allow. I was gonna write it down, but it just completely passed by my mind. But he's done a lot in 2021. He did a lot in 2021. Was really solid as our cornerback number 1. He struggled, sure, but as a second-year player who played his first ever full season, that's going to be expected. And you're also switching from one scheme to another. And he really didn't get to do a lot in 2020 as well. He didn't do anything in the offseason, none of those activities as well. And so I honestly would say this was his rookie season in 2021. I know this wasn't the first season he played in, but kind of the first season, like first season he really got to do stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the season he had was honestly pretty solid. And you get this guy, a veteran in the room, to teach him the ways. I really think we should, trade for James Bradbury and sign a lower-end free agent and Jimmy Smith to kind of be a backup. He's definitely not in his prime anymore, but to be a player who can come and mentor your cornerbacks about how to do the game and whatnot, because he never made any Pro Bowls or anything, but I just remember him being a really solid cornerback. And so to bring in 2 veterans who can help your cornerbacks do the ways, is something the New York Jets should do. But Bryce Hall, if he can just be a ball hawk, he's a CB1 in the NFL. If he was a ball hawk cornerback this year, he's making a Pro Bowl. If he would have had that at least 3 interceptions, Bryce Hall is a Pro Bowler this year. So he needs to just improve his ball hawking skills. And if he can do that, Bryce Hall is a Pro Bowler.
I agree. I love Bryce Hall. He was by far and away our best guy in coverage this year.
Oh, yeah.
I know Eccles had a couple picks, like the pick 6 against Tua, which was like, I love that. He jumped on stick route. Like Eccles, but yeah, and it's been a while since I've seen a Jets corner do that. That was exciting. But Bryce Hall is definitely, he's long, he's fluid, he's smooth, he gets his hands on a ton of passes. So when you keep getting your hands on passes, the picks are going to come. I also think all of our defensive backs are going to benefit from the Jets' significantly upgraded pass rush next year. When the quarterbacks have all day to pat the ball or escape the pocket, and now you're doing a scramble drill, it's really hard to maintain coverage for that long. So I think our entire secondary will improve with the pass rush improving as well.
Oh, yeah. So let's take a look at some of our chats. So we have John, who says Becton makes the Pro Bowl and Carl Lawson makes comeback player of the year. And I couldn't agree with you more, John. Oh, I think I accidentally put you in timeout. I was trying to put your comment on the screen. This is my first time ever doing a live stream on StreamYard, and I put you in timeout. I am so sorry, John. Did not mean to do that. But if you're still watching, which I think you are, I don't know if this is kicking you out the stream or anything, but I put you in timeout. I'm so sorry, John. But, I mean, you always comment on the channel. I mean, very appreciate that, man. I'm so sorry for putting you in timeout, but yeah, let's talk about what you said. So you say that Becton's a Pro Bowl in 2022. He made Carl Lawson's comeback player of the year. I mean, definitely agree with that. I mean, Mekhi Becton, I mean, if he played in a lot of games in 2020, if he would have cleaned up his penalties, he's a Pro Bowl. We know a lot of people voted for him. You know, he was, I believe, received some of the top AFC votes for tackle. I mean, we know Jets fans will back this guy up. And, I mean, if, you know, people like SportsCenter and the Check Down are posting his pancakes on Instagram and Twitter, he's going to get those Pro Bowl votes. And he's a player who does that regularly. He's always making highlight reels. Brian Baldinger's posting his highlight tapes every single week. So if you can... Sorry. My throat kind of got plucked up right there. So if you can, you know, get this guy, if he can start doing some more pancakes, definitely a Pro Bowler. Carl Lawson was a beast in training camp in 2021, and he's definitely making comeback player of the year. I mean, I don't see how he doesn't, especially if we draft an edge rusher and we move Quentin Williams and John Franklin Myers from the interior defensive line. You know, those two players definitely getting some awards. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, Carl Lawson looked like the best player on the team in camp, and I think he was poised for a really big breakout season. And his sack numbers weren't always big in Cincinnati, but his analytics were always really, really strong and tons of pressures. And he seems like a really hard worker. I'm excited for him to be back on the field. And Mekhi Becton, I agree with you, man. He's going to be a beast. I'm loving it. I'm super excited for, also, like you said, Carl Lawson coming over to edge, and then John Franklin Myers shifting back inside to defensive interior. Like, JFM was a beast in the beginning of the year. Then teams realized he was our number one guy, started to double team him. His sack numbers went down, but his pressures and his run defense stayed high. So if you think about those 4 guys, Carl Lawson, JFM, Quentin Williams, and probably one of our top 10 picks, like, that's really, really exciting. Or maybe we throw the bag at like a Chandler Jones or a Hassan Reddick, but I'm excited for our upgraded pass rush this year. I really am.
All right, then we got a comment from Straight 100 Jets talking about DK Metcalf, something you made a video about right before you hopped on the stream, and you guys definitely need to check out Kevin's channel. It is linked down below right here, NY Jets Flight Deck. Make sure you guys check that out on YouTube. But Straight 100 Jets, and I think if you press the start button, oh, never mind, you just have to click show. It was easy as that, and I'm so sorry for blocking you, John. I did not mean to do that. But he's saying with the top receivers getting tagged, the Jets must trade for DK Metcalf, and I couldn't agree with you more. DK is a beast. He's a player who can make contested catches, and he has good speed. I mean, he was competing for to run for the Olympics in the track. I mean, we know DK Metcalf has speed. He's an instant impact player, and with there being a lot of rumors with Seattle looking to trade him because Russell Wilson and whatnot, I could definitely see him getting traded, and I could definitely see him getting traded to the Jets. I mean, we know he would be a player Joe Douglas probably would be interested in. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's drying up out there. I mean, Chris Godwin torn ACL, but the Bucs tagged him anyway. Odell Beckham, I don't think was ever really going to come to the Jets, but he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl. Amari Cooper is now probably going to be a free agent and not be traded, which means the Jets are going to have to compete with all these other teams to sign him. Mike Williams just got the bag from the Chargers, 5 years. It was, I think it was like 4 years, 60 million or something like that.
Yeah, 3 years. I want to say one of those two, but he got the bag.
Yeah, he got paid. And I don't know, Christian Kirk has been kind of a hot name to the Jets, but I feel like that's a Kenny Golladay kind of signing where it's a number 2 receiver who's going to get number 1 money from a desperate team. So, I mean, and then Allen Robinson, who I think is a really good player, but his production was just really down last year. So I don't know about that. If you can get him on a 1-year deal, I'd do that. But I think DK has, he's the youngest of all those guys you mentioned, right? And I think he has the highest upside. Is he a crisp route runner? Can he run the whole route tree? No, he's a little bit of a one-trick pony. But damn, that's a neat trick to rip the top off the defense and go 80 yards. It's something the Jets haven't had. They had a little bit with Robbie Anderson, but the Jets really called no deep shots last year, and I feel like it's because they didn't have the personnel for it. So I really think DK's Metcalf speed and Zach Wilson's arm strength would be a really good tandem.
And I mean, getting a deep threat receiver for Zach Wilson is a must this offseason because he's a guy who can throw a football 70 yards down the field with a flick of his wrist. I mean, he needs a deep ball receiver. And that is one of the main reasons I was into trading for Robbie Anderson back when that was a thing, because he needs a deep ball receiver. And we can definitely get one in the draft, but if we just want to ensure that, trading for a guy or signing one in free agency definitely, does the trick for that. And I mean, I agree with you there with Christian Kirk. I mean, we don't need to give a wide receiver insane money.
We did that with Corey Davis.
Exactly. We did that with Corey Davis, and look how that turned out for us. I don't believe Christian Kirk has ever gone over 1,000 yards in his career before. And I mean, I know we were talking about how getting 2 good wide receiver 2s makes a thing, but if you're paying them big money, that's the difference maker right there. Because if you're getting Chase Claypool on, rookie contract, that's a different story. But if you're giving Christian Kirk $14 million a year, that completely changes the argument right there. Mm-hmm. So I mean, yeah, would definitely be down for trading DK Metcalf. And then Yeti in the chat was talking about Calvin Ridley, and I mean that was insane. He got suspended for a year for gambling on games. I mean, I know Straight 100 Jets made a video about that today, and I see John is unblocked from the chat right there, and I'm so sorry for that. I'm so sorry that you did that, man, but I mean, glad you're back in the chat. So sorry once again. But anyway, back to Calvin Ridley. So, got it suspended for a year. Definitely means the New York Jets aren't going to trade for him again, but he is a free agent in 2023. Mm-hmm. So, does that change Ridley's market?
Man, it depends on the details. I think if he was because we know he placed bets on NFL games. We know he placed bets on Falcons games. We don't know if those bets on Falcons games were after he took his leave of absence for mental health. I think if he placed bets on games that he was playing in, he might be done. He might be done.
That's a completely different story.
That's a Pete Rose situation. You're kind of done there. I think, and I know, and I agree with people on social media saying, hey, guys abuse women and get less punishment. I agree. I don't think Calvin Ridley should be punished less. I just think those other guys should be punished more. So is the NFL hypocritical here? Yes. But still, if you're betting on your own team's games and there's the possibility that now players could be throwing games to win bets, I just think the NFL can't take a chance on that. And I'm bummed because of all the guys, even better than DK, I liked Calvin Ridley's talent. I mean, his 2020 season was unbelievable. It was a Stephon Diggs kind of season. And I'm bummed for him. He's a young man. He's got a young little kid at home. And now I don't know if his 5th-year option is voided. I don't know how much money he's got. It's really sad. And it's kind of hard to feel sorry for him. It's dude, that was a really dumb thing to do,
And I mean, yeah, I agree with John right here. You can't bet on your own team. And I agree with you. You can't bet on the team while you're playing, because that just means you're throwing the game and you're getting easy money. I mean, apparently Calvin Ridley was saying that he only made one bet worth $1,500.
Right.
Is that true? We don't know. But I mean, I was just so bummed for him because, I mean, he was a guy I really wanted so bad. He's just that good of a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was just so bummed for Calvin Ridley, but I mean, he's a free agent in 2023, but I mean, he also might never play in the NFL again, just depending on, what he does. Because, I mean, if he was betting on his own games, you kind of have to do a Pete Rose right there and just suspend him forever, because you don't, because if you're spending him for a year, some of these top NFL players are just like, well, you suspend me for a year. It really doesn't matter. I'm like the best in the league. Teams are going to begging me to come back. So it just depends on what Ridley was doing. But if he was just sitting in his home in ATL, betting on games, just
because he was bored because he wasn't playing anymore,
Exactly.
I don't know.
It just depends. Like, I mean, he was probably just like sitting on the couch one day, like, I'm bored. I'm gonna do something fun and I'm gonna bet on my team. But I mean, if he was, because apparently he only did parlay bets, which, I mean, I've never betted before, but based off of what people are saying on Twitter and just based off of people I know, those are hard to make. I mean, you ever did any parlay bets before?
Yeah, so it's like a sequence of a bunch of things have to happen. It's almost like just throwing a lottery ticket in the ring, just to have fun.
Yeah. Because, like, I know my friend 00 Jets on Twitter, he made a bet against, like, on the Colts game, week 9, about how, like, he was just a parlay bet. And everything went right on the parlay bet. All we needed to do was Denzel Mims score a touchdown. And I think he dropped a touchdown or something in that game. Like, he could have won, like, $2,000 or something, and Denzel Mims didn't score a touchdown. Like, it was terrible. But, I mean, if Calvin really only made one bet that was worth like $1,500, it's a different story there. But like if he's betting on his team while playing, then that's completely
We need
different.
more information, I think, for sure.
Definitely need more information. But to spend him for a whole year before you know the details, I think is crazy. They suspended Myles Garrett indefinitely whenever he hit Mason Rudolph on the head with the helmet, because they did an investigation on that. I just don't see what's the difference right here. And I do feel like only suspending like Ray Rice, who beat his girlfriend, knocked her out cold for 2 games. And then Calvin Ridley could have possibly only been chilling on his couch at home making parlay bets off of his phone. It's just completely different stories right there.
Yeah, the NFL's got a serious I just don't think anyone believes their integrity. I think whenever they do something, people believe they're just trying to protect their pockets. I agree with you. Also, on the parlay bets, Zach Wilson has a better chance of throwing a touchdown pass to himself than a Denzel Mims.
Wait, really?
I would take that bet ricocheting off of a lineman's helmet and him catching it and running it in. That's more likely than Denzel. I'm just hating on Denzel Mims. No.
Oh.
I hope Denzel bounces back. I was so pumped about that draft pick. He balled out at Baylor. Man,
He
that was so
balled
disappointing.
out. And the fact that we traded back 10 picks and still got him made me insane. Like, whenever we landed Denzel Mims, I was jumping up and down because I'm just like, no way we just drafted Denzel Mims. But, I mean, the fact that we could have got Van Jefferson and Chase Claypool and traded back doesn't really look like a good move now, but I don't want to be the party wrecker. Still an awesome thing right there. And, I mean, see what Straight Jets 100 said right here. It's International Women's Day. The NFL is serious about courting right there, courting women to the game. They need to give abusers more severe punishments. And I mean, with women coaching for teams now, you can't really, I mean, that would be definitely awkward and not something you want in the locker room. I mean, having a coach, like, let's say, I believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a female coach. I believe, because I mean, I remember they had, I think it's Washington and Cleveland had that game together in like 2021, 2020. But, anyway, any team that has female coaches and you have players who just abuse their girlfriends or whatnot, you got to give them more severe punishments. And I definitely agree with Straight 100 Jets is saying right here, because, you can't have people just beating out their girlfriends cold and only getting suspended for 2 games like nothing ever happens.
Yeah, it's crazy. I 100% agree. I had a question I wanted to ask you, Jude. I was wondering, like, do you have a draft crush this year? Just like a player you're hoping that the stars align, that even if it's like a second round guy that you really want to be a Jet?
My draft crush this year is kind of like kind of like 50-50 right here. So it just depends on free agency for me, definitely. But Kayvon Thibodeau, Kyle Hamilton, those are my two draft crushes. Two guys I rave about, love Kyle Hamilton so much. I mean, I really like Kyle Hamilton a lot. My wallpaper on my phone is a Kyle Hamilton jersey swap. I mean, I just like Kyle Hamilton that much. And if if the stars align, if we don't sign a safety and we're able to get Kyle Hamilton, I would be pumped about that. But I definitely do feel like the more logical answer is to sign a safety, get a big money safety, draft another player with the 4th overall pick. But I mean, if we could somehow get Kyle Hamilton, I would be pumped because I mean, there's been some rumors going around that he could fall to pick 10. There was that mock draft PFF put out today where they had the Jets taking him at 10, and as soon as I saw that, I just had like this burst of joy in me because that's insane. Kyle Hamilton at 10 would be just a complete dream for me. But I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau, he used to be the number 1 overall player in the draft, and then things happened. All the stuff about him not wanting to play the game, which I think it kind of BS. But I mean, all that's kind of hurt its stock. But I mean, still, Kyle Hamilton, draft crush for me, 100%. Who is your draft crush?
Well, first, I love Kyle Hamilton. I like him at 10. Probably not a 4, but I like him at 10, and we need a safety, so I'm good with that at 10. For me, it's a guy I probably wouldn't want to take unless we trade down, but linebacker Devin Lloyd. I really, really like linebacker Devin Lloyd. I like him better than Nakobe Dean. I haven't seen a linebacker play this fast since maybe like a Patrick Willis, and he's all over the field making plays. He's super long, incredibly fast, great athlete. Loves ball. So if we trade down into the teens or to 20, I really think that's a pick that we can make. It's Kayvon. Yeah, Kayvon. I got a video on my channel a couple days ago where I broke down some of his highlights, and it's unbelievable. I mean, his release and his bend. There's so many times where guys barely get a hand on him. Like when you watch Von Miller, where it's just like he's untouched at the quarterback. I mean, Kayvon has some of that. Now he's got some plays where it's not as consistent, but I think there's a strong case to be made that if the Jets draft Kayvon Thibodeau, he might end up as their career leader in sacks. He really might.
I mean, yeah, he's just that good of a player. And Devin Lloyd, I really like too. This past season at Utah, he put up insane numbers. It's just, do we want to take a linebacker with all the needs we have?
Right.
I mean, definitely not at 4, but at 10, it's just
probably still not at 10. Yeah, only if we trade down.
Only if we trade down, because I'm kind of antsy on taking a linebacker. Every time I see us taking one in mock draft, I'm just like, I don't like it. It just doesn't sit right with me. But if we make a trade with someone like the Saints or Pittsburgh, Devin Lloyd, Nakobe Dean, definitely Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd's my linebacker number 1 in this year's class. But I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to taking Dean as well. But if Lloyd is off the board, take Dean. It's not something I'm opposed to. But I mean, yeah, definitely have to address linebacker this season. CJ Mosley, he's a stud, but we're gonna most likely move on from him next year. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, he's just a guy who he has such a high cap hit.
Yeah, it's a crazy cap hit. And I love CJ, but it's like 20 mil. We can't cut him this year because of the dead money. He's a great locker room guy. I think he can help us recruit some guys to the Jets and be a culture builder. But yeah, that cap hit for some just above average middle linebacker play is kind of crazy right now.
Because, he was a team MVP this past season. He had that awesome press conference after he won team MVP. And he also won the Jets Media Good Guy Award. I mean, the media likes him. The locker room loves him. He's just a team leader overall. He's a captain. I mean, if Foley leaves, he's honestly kind of like the new Foley. So it's just, it would be hard to move on from CJ, definitely. But, I mean, we're definitely going to do it, and we definitely have to get a young linebacker either in the 1st or 2nd round this year. Not only first if we trade back, of course, but I mean, 2nd round is definitely how we're going to do it. But I mean, linebacker free agent options, do you have any people?
Yeah, John just made an interesting point. CJ might rework his contract, and this is actually something like in any mock off season has to start here, because if you look at what the Packers just did with Kenny Clark, who has a similar contract, they asked him to take $10 million of his base salary and convert it to a signing bonus. So if the Jets did that with CJ, they would free up $10 million in cap right away. So I think that's got to be one of the first moves of the offseason. That's a great point. I know there's a younger guy out of Atlanta. I forget how to pronounce his name, like Owasu or something, that has been hot to the Jets because he played with our defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Foyesade Oku. Now I want to say he has a pretty challenging name to say, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I like him. He's smaller. He's pretty fast. But I also really like Devonja Campbell of the Packers, who's almost, when I watch Devin Lloyd, that's what I think he could be. Really, really tall, long, 6'4", incredibly fast. A little bit of a one-hit wonder. This last year was like his breakout season. But also, if we trade back to the Saints at 18, obviously I'm probably going to want like maybe their first rounder next year. But then I'm also going to say, hey, give us Demario Davis back.
Yeah,
because he's still balling. He's like 33, but he's still balling.
He's like exactly like not Devin Lloyd, Demario Davis doing so good in New Orleans right now, and I really wish we wouldn't have signed Avery Williamson. We definitely should have re-signed Demario Davis, but I mean that's Mike McCagan for you right there. But I mean Devonja Campbell, really like him too. Now the moment I made my mock off season video, Devonja Campbell was in Green Bay. He was posting like a picture at Lambeau Field. He was just like, it was, I think he had a caption that was something positive, and it was like a smiley face or something. I'm just like,
Right.
well, he's getting re-signed by Green Bay. I'm going to just go ahead and sign Foyesade Okun. But nothing's happened since that. And I'm just like, well, maybe he's going to be a free agent now. But I mean, as we're like talking right now, Devonja Campbell could have been signed. I have no idea. But Devonja Campbell, all pro in 2021. It's just the thing about him is he could be a one-hit wonder because he signed with Green Bay in 2021 to a 1-year, $2 million deal. So like he's a Quincy Williams type of player.
Yeah.
Before he had 2021. So it's like, do you want to take a gamble on him? Because if he's requesting a lot of money, no thank you.
But probably 9-10 million a year is going to take.
Exactly. Like I don't even know if I would give Campbell that money too, because it just I don't know. But it's either him or Foyesade. We definitely got to sign a linebacker this year. Either sign one or draft one in the second. And with all the needs we have, because you probably I don't know about after the combine, but I mean Trey McBride or a tight end in the second is what you want to do. And then 38. Maybe there's a linebacker there. Maybe there's a safety, depending on how free agency goes.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think the second round, I'm really set on tight end at 35, and then linebacker or safety at 38. I really think that's the way it's going to go. And there's a lot of safe. I think there's going to be some good value at safety at 38, like a Brisker or Sign. I don't know if it's Sign or Scene, but
Same. I always had a problem with that name because it's like Sin, Sign.
I'm gonna call him Sign because he hasn't been seen because he's running so damn fast. I mean, he ran like 4.3 something on the combine. I mean, he just blew it up. So he might have knocked himself into the end of the first round, honestly. But I think that might be a good sweet spot to take a safety, sign a safety in free agency, and then have the second round pick there, and then maybe and third round pick at linebacker is okay as long as you bring in another veteran. I'm okay with that. Yeah, Christian Watson. Oh my goodness, the raw athletic score was like a 9.9. Absolutely,
it was like close to
freakish. Like, perfect,
yeah. Christian Watson, and if we do get a wide receiver number one in free agency or trade like DK Metcalf and Mark Cooper, one of those two players, Christian Watson is definitely a guy we need to draft because he is from North Dakota State, and I feel like maybe resting a player for a year, not putting him in an immediate role, especially if they're coming from like one of those not division. Well, they're Division I, but like FBS, they're an FCS school. So maybe getting some of those FCS players, let them kind of sit back for a year, kind of take in the game. I feel like it's something you maybe should do. And and then you could cut Corey Davis next offseason, depending on how he plays this year. And then have Christian Watson as your 2, Amari Cooper or DK Metcalf, whoever you trade or sign for, and then have Elijah Moore in the slot.
Yeah, we have so much flexibility here. It's really exciting. And Christian Watson, I like him. I probably wouldn't want to go higher than the third round. I would take a flyer on him in the third round, just because Denzel Mims tested elitely too, and we saw how that turned out. So I think you want a more proven football player if you're going to go as high as the second round. But I like him in the third round. I also like what you said about drafting a young guy to maybe move on from Corey Davis, who after this year is kind of on a 1-year by year basis contract. And Denzel Mims, I don't think we should cut him or trade him for pennies, but we can't go into the season counting on him to play a significant role. We just can't. He hasn't earned that. I know he had food poisoning and COVID, so I'm optimistic that he's going to come back and contribute to this team next year, but we have to have contingency plans in place. at wide receiver. And I think somebody mentioned, I think it was Straight 100 Jets, who I don't know. I think I'm sub to him too. He's great. And I'm just agreeing with everything he's saying, because Garrett Wilson, when I watch him, I just think baller. Dude is a baller. Garrett Wilson, mossing people at 6 foot, yak ability, looks like Debo on these reverses and sweeps, even though he's much smaller. And honestly, my comp for him is he looks like Steve Smith back in his heyday with the Carolina Panthers, who just played so much bigger than his size and was had toughness, was like a running back with the ball in his hands. For me at 10, at this point, the only receiver I think is worthy of a top 10 pick is Garrett Wilson.
Do you think the only receiver worth the top 10 pick is Garrett Wilson?
Yep, I think it's the only one. Trey Burks, I don't care about the 40 time, but all of his other metrics, like the vert and the broad and the cone drill, tested in like really. There was a 325-pound defensive tackle who had a longer broad jump than Trey Burks. So I think, but then again, DK Metcalf had the same issue where he fell because of some of those scores, and look at DK. So exactly. I'm gonna trust Joe Douglas on this. He knows football better than I do. So if Joe Douglas thinks that Trey Burks is worth it at 10, then I'm gonna go get my jersey. I'm gonna be hype about it no matter what. But my number one choice would be Garrett Wilson.
And I mean, Garrett Wilson, I do like Garrett Wilson too. I like where you said he plays bigger than his size, because he definitely does. I have a picture on my phone because I know somebody's always going to say, Garrett Wilson, can't draft him, can't make contested catches, but yet there's film and proof of him doing that exact same thing. I mean,
who's spreading these lies, Jude?
Like, I just see random people on Twitter tweeting out, and I'm just like, nope, I'm going to prove you wrong. But Garrett Wilson, he's insane. The high he can jump is just awesome. And there's this picture that I have of him jumping so high in the air. I believe it was in the semifinal game against Clemson. And it was just awesome to look at. Like, that was such a beautiful catch right there. And that was the moment that sold me on Garrett Wilson. But I do want to say quickly, and I might make some people mad right here, but wide receiver rankings: 1 Burks, 2 Olave, and 3 Garrett Wilson.
Not even the best receiver on his team. People are sleeping on Olave, though, so I like Olave too.
And I mean, I made a video the other day about, Chris Olave and how I think people are sleeping on him, because I watched some film on Olave the day before the combine, and oh my goodness, that was something to look at, because he can run routes. He can run deep routes. He can make contested catches. He has awesome ball tracking skills. I mean, by run routes, I mean, like, his route running is very good. Deep routes, he's fast. I mean, he's fast. He had that 4.26 combine speed, which I wish was real. Ends up being a 4.38, which isn't bad, but I mean, it's still
flying.
It's still flying. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Under 4.4 is flying. So having, a guy like Chris Olave who can do all those things, because I believe he's the most well-rounded player in this year's draft, most well-rounded receiver in this year's draft, by the way he can just do all of those things. And I haven't looked too much into other players' film, and I guess maybe I should be making that saying as much as I've looked into Olave's film. But I mean, I've watched his highlight videos multiple times just because it's so memorizing to look at. But I mean, Olave, I definitely think people are sleeping on him. But Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, and Chris Olave, all players I would use the number 10 overall pick on.
Yeah, I mean, Olave, I agree. Straight 100 Jet says his nickname is Silky, so smooth. He's probably the most polished route runner of this crew. And we talked about Calvin Ridley, very sad. My pro comp for Olave is actually Calvin Ridley. Similar frame, 6'1", 190, a burner. His release is insane. If you're going to press him, you better get him, because if you miss him, he's gone. Now, has to get better at the contested catch point. He only had like a 44% catch percentage on 50-50 balls. So that's something he has to improve on. And we talk about catch radius. You know how you have a great catch radius? By running by people. You have a big catch radius when you have 5 yards of separation on the nearest guy. So he separates better than anybody in this class. He's really, really smooth. He's got the toe drag swag on the sideline. Only like 7 drops in his entire career. He played 4 years. So Olave, I like him. I think the reason why I like Garrett Wilson better is because I think he has a little bit more versatility in how he can be used. And I think that LaFleur has shown that he's a pretty creative play caller. So that's why I'm a little bit more excited about Wilson. I also feel like Wilson, of all the receivers, there's just no way he's a bust. So I think he's probably the safest pick, but I like Olave too, and I think that he's underrated.
Yeah, Chris Olave definitely underrated, and I mean, I didn't mention any negatives about Chris Olave, but I mean, you definitely have to talk about negatives. His play strength is definitely something that isn't the best. I honestly wanted to see him do bench reps at the combine, but I mean, you just watch him and he doesn't have that strength, that you want a receiver
He doesn't
to
play
have.
strong.
He doesn't play strong. But the best part about that is that it's a fixable issue. I mean, with good strength and conditioning, you can make Chris Olave a stronger guy. And, you look at some of these players who have negatives, like Drake London, he's not very fast. Jameson Williams, he just hasn't really proven that he can make contested catches. Garrett Wilson has had a little bit of a drop problem. That's another fixable issue. And then you have Treylon Burks just not really testing well at the combine and kind of being a bigger player. But, it just feels like Chris Olave's biggest weakness is something that could easily be fixed with the right strength and conditioning, of course.
Yeah, I agree with Jahan and Jets. They both need to add some size for sure. But as you just said, maybe that's something that he could throw on 10, 12 pounds of muscle and he'll be good to go. And I think the NFL is trending more towards a separation league. I think that's really what they're looking for in receivers. You see like the big body guys, the possession receivers are starting to fall into more of the second round, those Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall type of players, and the jump ball guys. And I think now coaches and GMs really want guys who can separate for sure.
And that is just the main reason I don't like Drake London. I know a ton of people are high on London. Some people are saying the Giants are going to draft him at 5 or 7. And I'm just like, what are you thinking about? He is my wide receiver 5. Honestly, might be my wide receiver 6 now with Jahan Watson and Christian Watson having the insane combines they did. But it's just like, I don't see really any good qualities about Drake London except for the fact that he can make contested catches. You look at his highlight tape, and that's pretty much all he does, or he has like 1 single yard of separation. He gets tackled immediately after. I mean, people were saying how like Drake London has the best like broken tackles, but it's because literally like as soon as he makes the catch, people go to tackle him, and that is something he can do. But like the broken tackles do slow down a player, and it's not gonna get you very far. And you're watching Drake London film, and there's some routes where he's open, very rarely, but he does get open sometimes. And I'm thinking Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Jahan Watson, Christian Watson, Jameson Williams, any of those players could have ran into the end zone because they were that open, but they didn't. Drake London, he gets tackled, yard short, 5 yards short, and he doesn't make the play. And we've seen that can actually be an issue, getting stopped early, because, you're first and goal from the 5-yard line. You're thinking you're going to score a touchdown or at least come away with points. But we saw Michael Carter against Miami the first time he played him. He gets tackled on the 1-yard line, and it took us all the way to 4th down until we could score points. And so I just don't really
we run a QB sneak on 4th and 2.
Yeah, or that. Too soon. Definitely. I mean, yeah, but the QB sneak, I was mad when I saw that. I was actually in a gas station bathroom watching it on my phone when we ran the QB sneak, and I was like, I'm screaming at the urinal. Like, what are we doing? And I mean, luckily nobody was in the bathroom when that happened, but I was just so mad. I completely forgot I was in a urinal in a public gas station right there. But I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? And I just hated
people wanted the draft pick, but I wanted the dub there, man. I wanted that win. I feel like that could have been a culture-changing win. Give Tom Brady his last L for his last game at our stadium, man. NFL Chaos said, Jeremy, I totally agree. I think that I'm dropping on Drake London. I liked him at the beginning of the offseason, but the more I've watched him and other players, I think you're right. You want there's 2 things you really want in our scheme, and that's separation and yak ability, and those are like his 2 worst qualities. So I think if we trade down to 20, maybe, but I still probably don't want Drake London. You mentioned Jahan Watson. Am I saying his name right? Is it no?
Jahan Watson.
Jahan Watson. Right. Jahan Watson to me is Elijah Moore 2.0. I think someone's going to get him at the top of the 2nd round, late 1st round. And we just got some spam coming in, Jude. And I
block him correctly this time.
There you go. Don't block John though. But I think absolutely is going to be a stud, a guy who can play like a running back after the catch. So I like Jahan Watson and Drake London. people are copying him to Mike Evans or AJ Green, but those dudes get separation. Like I know Mike Evans and AJ Green are bigger guys, but I mean, I've seen plenty of go routes where Mike Evans is toasting people. I remember, watching Jets games and seeing Ravens Bengals highlights, and AJ Green is leaving defenders in the dust. So those guys, even though they were bigger, they still separated better than London. So I'm probably out on him too at this point. I agree with everybody in the chat.
And I mean, the thing about AJ Green too is I just remember using him in Madden. I would normally pick the Bengals because they had AJ Green, and if he's on man-to-man coverage, you audible his route to a go, and it doesn't even matter. There's the safety back there. He's open, and it's 3 points. And I've never really seen Drake London do that. There's not really anywhere on his tape where he's like 10 yards away from the receiver. There's nothing that shows he is so wide open. And that is what, just gets in my mind, because he's definitely going to be one of those players who, like, going to end up being Corey Davis type of player. I've said before that Drake London, he's going to end up being Corey Davis in his career, which is not a bad player, but he's a wide receiver number 2. And you don't want to draft a wide receiver at 10 who's going to end up becoming your wide receiver 2. That pick at 10 is going to have to be a future Pro Bowler, going to have to be your future wide receiver. Now, I don't even care if he makes Pro Bowl or All-Pro teams, but if he's putting up 1,000 yards constantly for you, if he's a Mike Evans type of player to where he's never not had 1,000 yards in his career, I mean, that's an absolute dub. I just don't see Drake London being one of those players.
Absolutely. And we're a little over an hour here, Jude. I'm down to do one more topic. If maybe if somebody in the chat wants to drop what they want us to chat about for the last couple minutes here.
Yeah, if anyone wants to drop. And I do want to say that NFL Chaos with Jeremy and Straight 100 Jets make fantastic content on the channels, and everyone in the chat, if you're not subbed to them already, you 100% should be. And you should also be subbed to our special guest, NY Jets Flight Deck. And if someone in the chat's typing what their last topic wants to be, you want to talk about what your channel's about and why people should subscribe to you if they haven't already, because they definitely should be. If you haven't convinced them today why they shouldn't subscribe, go ahead and try to do some more convincing.
So like I said at the top, if you weren't here, I said that my technology YouTube knowledge is like a 2, but my Jets knowledge and passion is like a 9 out of 10.
Which the technology part can be debated, I'm just saying.
Yeah, so far so good. I was nervous. I was like, oh man, something's gonna go wrong. But I haven't knocked my mic over, or none of my cats have knocked the water on my laptop or anything. So far so good. But pretty much I'm just the Jets. All I'm thinking about is like the Jets. Like I'm on a walk, I'm driving, I'm thinking about my mock off season. I'm like, okay, no, but then we're gonna draft this guy and he's gonna sit at the 5th in the depth chart. And then next year we're gonna cut this guy and then he's gonna be, and I'm like 3 years ahead in my mind in Jets football at all times. So I said, hey, instead of just thinking about this, maybe I'll put it out into the universe. Maybe some other Jets fans want to talk about this stuff with me. Also, I live in Buffalo, New York. I grew up on Long Island. Went to college in Buffalo. I've stayed here. So it's kind of lonely as a Jets fan. People bring up football. I kind of have to just look the other way. Now that the Bills are good, it really, really sucks. So just trying to find a little community that I can talk some Jets football with. And that's me.
So, I don't know if I've tried to get his channel link down below in the description, but it's not appearing on my YouTube Studio app on my phone. The YouTube Studio app on my computer is not letting me save my changes, and it hasn't been letting me do that for 2 months now, so it's been stressful. But I mean, I'm sorry for not linking your channel down below, but I have it right there in front of you guys, so make sure you guys go and type that in the YouTube search bar. It's going to come up, and make sure to press that red subscribe button, which is also free. And the last thing we're going to be talking about today is a question from John. He says that the New York and California teams are at a disadvantage during NFL free agency because of income tax. Should the NFL address this? And you want to start this one off, Kevin?
Man, John going deep with IRS questions on hour 2 of the chat. Okay, John. I hadn't really thought about that, but it's actually a really good point. I mean, a lot of times players will go to like Arizona and Texas to save a little money. Plus the weather is a little bit nicer. What could the NFL do? Maybe there's something where they could slightly adjust your salary cap based on the taxes in your area. Also the cost of living. Like if a guy is going to sign a $15 million contract in San Francisco, that's not going to go as far as signing a $15 million contract in Buffalo. So I think like having a sliding scale of a salary cap to a certain extent could be an idea that might address this. But I hadn't really thought about this before, so good question. I don't know.
Now, John, put in the chat. Do you work for the IRS?
All right.
Just.
I paid my
just
taxes,
asking.
John. I pay my taxes.
Hey, I don't have a job, John. So you don't have to look into me. I'm 14. I'm 14. I'm 14. I promise you, I will pay my taxes though. But I mean, if you want to, kind of let me off the hook a little in the future, that's that. But John, I do want to say though, does New Jersey have income tax? Because teams, okay, so New Jersey does have income tax.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
state income tax in New Jersey.
alrighty, so that applies there, and I do think that having an adjusted salary cap to the income tax is a pretty good idea for that because you know like what are we going to do about that? That's government stuff, and the NFL should definitely give us a little extra money for the income tax, or maybe out of the NFL's pocket they could pay for the income tax, so it really wouldn't affect the player's salary or something. Maybe do something about that. I mean, Roger Goodell and the NFL just have to have a lot of money. It wouldn't hurt to pay for players' income tax, but I mean, it definitely puts some teams at a disadvantage. But I mean, the Rams just won the Super Bowl, but at the same time, they did trade for players, and unless those players had no trade clauses, they really can't change where they want to go. I mean, I definitely do think for players signing lower tier contracts, it definitely has to put something there. Maybe a hidden gem player like a Devonja Campbell. He would much rather go to Green Bay on a 1 year, $2 million deal than probably come to the Jets on a 1 year, $3 million deal because
Right.
he has an income tax to pay. And I feel like on some of these hidden gem type of players, that's why maybe the New York Jets haven't hit on some of these hidden gem type of players, except for in the waiver wire, because maybe they don't want to come to us because they're afraid they're going to get hit with this income tax. And you see us mainly making these crazy signings to like guys like Le'Veon Bell, and maybe that's also a reason to why we've had to overpay for players in the past. But it looks like Joe Douglas is off that, and I was saying earlier in the stream, Joe Douglas needs to be on an episode of Chiefscape right now. Whoever runs that TV show needs to sign him up right now. But I definitely do think the income tax definitely has a play in free agency. And are you good for one more topic, or do we want to end the stream right now?
I'm good for one more if you're good, Jude.
I'm good. So Straight 100 Jet says, what are your thoughts on Woody looking to buy Chelsea? And I think it's Chelsea. I'm not from the UK. I don't watch soccer, so sorry for mispronouncing that. But if it means that he has to sell the Jets, then I'm 1,000% on board. Now I'm gonna start this one off if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go for it.
Alrighty, so me and Straight 100 Jets were talking about this yesterday on Twitter, and I made a TikTok about this yesterday. And if this means Woody's selling the team, I'm 100% on board because he's not a good owner. But if this means he's making Chris Johnson the owner, I'm not on board because I don't know how that would work. But there's definitely something that has to be put in place to where, or not saying it happens, but I mean, if Woody were to leave, I definitely think he could just easily hand over ownership to his brother. Maybe it could stay in the family. But I mean, if that means Christopher's going to be the new owner, then Woody, do not bow Chelsea. But if it means we get a new owner, then I mean I'm okay with that because I've never been to a Jets game in MetLife Stadium, but based off of people I know, the stadium is not good. You ever been to MetLife?
Yeah, I've been to MetLife a bunch. Paid $17 for a beer and $50 to park. So, yeah, I agree. I think your organization, it really starts with ownership, and when you haven't made the playoffs for the longest streak in the NFL, you have to look no further than the man who's calling all the shots. So if he wants to sell, and maybe we get somebody who's a little bit more connected to the fan base, and winning is more of a priority. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Gary V. I love Gary V.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, I like Gary V too. Follows me on Twitter, so I mean that would be pretty cool to have the Jets owner follow me on Twitter. But I mean, he's been saying for a long time he would want to buy the Jets.
He wants to own the Jets so bad.
Yeah, he wants to own it so bad. It's just I don't know if he has the money to. I mean, probably Gary V. He's like really rich. He's like this investor and whatnot. But like, I don't know what the Jets are worth. I think we're worth somewhere in the billions, and I don't know how correct Gary V's net worth is. Look it up, and I want to say it was somewhere around 300 million. I want to say, and I don't know if he would have the money, but like if they could do something to what the Royals are doing, and maybe what the Broncos are doing with Kanye West and Antonio Brown buying the Broncos, maybe Gary V and some other people could kind of pitch in and kind of do a group ownership thing. Maybe like a player, Carmelo Anthony or something, who played a long time in New York would be interested in buying a New York team, or maybe a player. Derek Jeter, yeah, I was just about to say him. Someone like that who would want to be more part of the New York sports community would be interested in buying a team along with Gary Vee. And I mean, guys like 50 Cent, he's a Jets fan. We have a lot of rich people. Maybe even Zendaya, Adam Sandler, Kevin James, they want to pitch in to buy the Jets. But I definitely do think we have a good opportunity to get a new owner, a new kind of hip owner right here if, Woody sells the Jets. But I mean, if it means he's making Christopher the owner, Woody, please don't buy Chelsea.
No, I love the Gary Vee take. I just looked it up. The Jets are worth about $4 billion. Gary Vee's net worth is like $160 million. But I don't know how this works because people buy teams all the time that their net worth is way lower than what they paid. So they get like a bunch of people together. I don't know how it works, but maybe Gary Vee could eventually do it. I like a younger, hipper owner, like a Mark Cuban kind of vibe, who's really connected to the fan base. I think that the Jets.
Mark Cuban's in like the celebrity NBA games.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Jets could really use an upgrade at ownership for sure.
And at the same time, net worths can be off. Drake has said in a song that don't check my net worth. It is not correct. There's something around the lines of that. So who knows if Gary is actually worth $100 million. But I mean, yeah, definitely getting a new owner, a new hipper owner would be something I'm a fan of. And just hopefully an owner of the Jets. I don't even know if Woody Johnson was a fan of the Jets. Just probably bought it because he was bored one day or something.
It was just a business move. And if I can, Jude, I'd like to close. If you give me 3 minutes to stand up for Zach Wilson. Can I have 3 minutes to stand up for Zach Wilson?
You can absolutely have 3 minutes to stand up for Zach Wilson.
All right, because it's a rant I just went on in my channel and actually like shot up to my most viewed video, which is only like 40 views, but hey, whatever. So it tells me this is something that Jets fans feel passionately about, and I feel like the media in general from the jump just decided that out of this quarterback class, Zach Wilson was going to be a bust. Everything he did and said was wrong. And I've seen a couple Jets recently, including John Abraham, which I was really sad because he was like my favorite Jet. I was probably like your age, Jude, when John Abraham was balling out for the Jets. So
he was the player everyone's been bringing up about, like last good edge rusher, correct?
Yeah, last elite edge rusher, 2005. So he came out and said Jets move on from Zach Wilson. But no one's saying this about Trevor Lawrence, who was worse than Zach Wilson. Trevor Lawrence threw more interceptions, won less games, and lost to Zach Wilson head-to-head. And no one's saying this about Justin Fields, how Zach Wilson looked before the injury when he looked awful. Justin Fields looked like that anytime he was on the field the whole year, completely overwhelmed. And I like Trevor Lawrence. I like Justin Fields. I'm not giving up on them either. And Trey Lance didn't even play. Now San Francisco reports out that they may hang on to Jimmy G because he's quote unquote still not ready. So are you telling me all four of the top quarterbacks in a quarterback stats class are all busts? But oh no, it's just Zach Wilson's a bust. It's insane. I mean, and people bring up the Kyler Murray's, Josh Rosen. Okay, Zach Wilson was not as bad as Josh Rosen. There's no comparison there because Zach Wilson gave you traits to build on. Second, if we're going to move on from Zach Wilson, who's the Kyler Murray coming out this year? There isn't one. And if there was one, the Lions would be taking him at 2. So I just don't get it.
Exactly. And I agree with everything you said. Like, why are people giving Zach Wilson so much hate? There's a TikToker that I despise, Theo Ash, I want to say his name is. I mean, he hates on Zach Wilson so much. He hasn't really said it, but it's kind of like he's saying it without saying it. I mean, he made a video, the first time I ever saw him on my For You page was about how, like, Matt Corral's a quarterback we shouldn't draft because he reminds me a lot of Zach Wilson. I mean, hello, he's hating on Zach Wilson. And I mean, I just don't see why people are so down on him. I mean, he looked good after his injury. Literally went toe-to-toe with the GOAT, Tom Brady. Outplayed the GOAT, a person who was second in MVP votes as a rookie with Kenny Yeboah as his starting tight end. Kenny Yeboah, an undrafted free agent, was his starting tight end in that game. It was actually Daniel Brown.
Braxton Berrios was his number, and I like Braxton, but he was his number one receiver.
Exactly, and you don't want Braxton Berrios as your number one receiver. That's like not something you want to have. So I just don't see why people are giving Zach Wilson hate. Wait a minute, I know why. Because he's the quarterback for the New York Jets. Mm-hmm. That's it. Because fans, they look at a random graphic by CBS Sports and are just like, Jets haven't made the playoffs in 10 years. Jet bad. That's literally like they speak in caveman when they're talking about.
They haven't watched him. They're just shouting memes.
They're just shouting memes. They haven't watched him at like literally after Zach Wilson was drafted. I think NFL Memes posted a thing that said, congratulations to Zach Wilson to getting picked second overall by the Jets. now I can't wait to watch his career fail. Something around the lines of that. Like, why aren't you saying that about the Chicago Bears, who literally just picked Mitchell Trubisky second overall, and he's not there anymore? Like, he's a backup quarterback. Probably going to be starter this year, but at the time, he was a backup. Why aren't you saying that about the Jacksonville Jaguars, who completely messed up Blake Bortles? I just don't get it. Like, we really didn't even mess up Chad Pennington because injuries got to him, and Sam Darnold, we messed up. Not going to lie right there. But, I mean, a lot of these other teams who drafted quarterbacks messed up on quarterbacks before. And I just don't see why teams aren't giving them hate, but they're going to give the Jets hate. It just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, Jacksonville only made the playoffs, like, I can't remember. I haven't been watching the
They
I've only
snuck
been
in with
watching.
Blake Bortles, and their defense was really good that one year. They made the AFC
Exactly.
Championship. But
I mean, that's pretty much the only
2017 or
time they made the
something, yeah.
playoffs, right? 2017. Like, I started watching in 2015, and I've only seen them make it since 2017.
Right.
Like, that's insane. So, like, they had one, like, Cinderella story season, and that's about it. But Zach Wilson definitely should not be getting hate, and definitely going to have to check out that video.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so I guess we're good to close.
Good to close. Hey, appreciate you having me on, Jude. Again, I think you're the best at what you do. I got a lot to learn from you, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
Same here, man. And just thank you for coming on. And hopefully you got some new subscribers. Hopefully you're at least 30 now. We had some people coming in and out the chat. I think the highest amount of views we had in the chat was 12 people. So thank you guys for joining. And I mean, I would say things went pretty smooth for my first time ever doing a live.
Yeah, great job.
I mean, outside of having no thumbnail and description, I would say things went pretty well. But thank you again, just for having me on. And hopefully, yo guys, just go and check out Kevin. He had fantastic performance on the stream today. Makes fantastic videos. Y'all guys just check him out. Makes fantastic content. And his channel is linked right there. And thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys go sub to Kevin. And we're out. Peace.
See you. Thanks, Jude.